So this morning I am heading back home to El Valle from Boquete. Today is a gorgeous day, blue skies, sun. It was like this yesterday, but the first 2 days that I was here, it was high wind, bajareke, and some rain. It was not, and it was cold. So it's a beautiful day today. I wanted to just chat about the differences that I noticed between El Valle and Boquete. So the first thing would be the temperature, and I'm talking about the town of Boquete, because as you come up the mountain, it obviously gets colder. So there are areas in the surrounding area that are not as cold. For me, it felt a lot colder than El Valle. And it's drier. El Valle is surrounded by mountains, and so we're really in this bowl, in this crater. And I think for people who have allergies, I mean, I've known of people who tried to live in El Valle and they just couldn't with their allergies, like to mold or mildew. And so they moved to Boquete, and with the breezes, the allergies were fine. I'm sure they get, some mold and mildew issues here, because I've seen dehumidifiers, and, you notice like the more kind of open air construction to help mitigate, dampness. You always, I think, want to do that in Panama. The area is definitely more vast and sprawling than in El Valle. So in El Valle, it's really the town, and then the outlying areas are not developed. I mean, there's just houses and maybe, some farming communities. But here, there are a lot of little towns and pockets of developments, and that have stores and some amenities. So if you like a more sprawling kind of large area to explore, I would say Boquete would be suitable for that. El Valle definitely feels small now that I've spent some time here in Boquete. I've kind of always thought that El Valle is like the place for introverts, and Boquete would be a great place for extroverts. There's a lot to do in Boquete. There's, the outdoor activities, hiking groups that I've been seeing, classes that are posted up in different places. There's live music more frequently than we have in El Valle. Just there's a lot more activity and a lot more to do, and especially like in the evenings at night, if you enjoy going out at night. El Valle is really kind of a sleepy town. Things close fairly early. The whole town shuts down, other than holiday times and during mostly holidays, I guess. You'll find, some more activity in El Valle. But in general, there's really a lot to do. And the agro-tourism here is much more developed than we have in El Valle. I know people are, trying to develop that, like ecotourism in El Valle. And that seems to definitely be a little more established here in Boquete, whether it's a coffee tour or guided hikes. There's a lot of great hiking in the area. On this trip, I didn't do any hikes because I was focused on just kind of getting a lot of interviews and video footage, but there are a lot of hikes in the area, and I'm sorry I didn't get to do anything or see any waterfalls, but the views have been amazing. Like just driving up into the mountains and looking, down into the canyons. It's just really been pretty spectacular. One of the main differences I noticed as a difference between El Valle and Boquete is that there's a lot of English spoken in Boquete. Um, for me, it felt a little jarring at first, and I tried to use my Spanish, even if somebody was speaking to me in English. And I would then rely on my English, like, once it got past a few sentences, and then my Spanish just left my mind. So it was convenient, but being in a Spanish-speaking country, I really was expecting to just hear mostly Spanish, but the Panamanians would use English, to greet me. Yeah, I wonder why. Why didn't they think I was, from here? I don't know. And I went to one of the markets, and there were a lot of expats. And I think I'm just kind of fond of our little mercado in El Valle, and it's all Panamanian stalls, like all the vendors are Panamanian. But it is nice to have, products that expats are, creating, and that does broaden the services in a community, and it can employ people. But to me, it just felt like it was just a little bit jarring, like, oh wow, there's a lot of gringos here and a lot of English being spoken. But I think after 6 years of being in Panama, I'm just not used to hearing that much English being spoken. Maybe in like Coronado, there's a lot of English that is spoken there. So I think Boquete, then I notice even more English being spoken. Another difference I notice after speaking with two people in real estate here is there are a lot of gated communities. And I think in El Valle, we have one. It's just an enclave of maybe 7 multi-million-dollar homes. That's the only one I know of. And here, there's quite a few gated communities. I personally like the integration of being, just a big community. That said, that there are noises that bother me. That vendor that comes by at 9 o'clock at night with his siren and the music and the announcements. And so that is a benefit of being in a gated community where you're not going to have the vendors driving by, at all. Maybe your neighbors can't have the party and the karaoke until 4 a.m. Things are a little more regulated, which can be good and bad, right? There's positives and negatives to that. So if you're looking for a gated community, you want to, ask a broker, what's the story behind the story? Find out about, who's running the board, what kind of issues they've had. Just get into some of those details before you make any, decisions, especially with purchasing. If you're going to be renting, that really is the best way to get to know every environment that you're potentially thinking about, because it's low risk. You can be there for 6 months to a year and then move on if it doesn't suit you. I definitely can see the appeal of Boquete Very vibrant, lively, active community, a lot more tourism, um, and also I'm happy to be heading back to my sleepy little town and to my birds and my agoutis and of course my cat, Feather. Another difference between El Valle and Boquete is that Boquete has golf. If you're a golfer, it seems like Boquete would be a perfect spot. There's no golfing in El Valle, but there is down the mountain along the beaches. I think Buenaventura and Decameron have golf courses. I'm not a golfer, so I don't know for sure. Another difference between El Valle and Boquete. Since my stay in Boquete and coming back, there were 2 sizable earthquakes, none in El Valle. The first one was the second day I was there, and I was standing on the edge of a ravine that had loose soil, and I ran out of that area. That I think was a 4.7. And then I'm home now, but just heard through my chat group that there was a 5.2 and the epicenter was in Bocas del Toro. So we get earthquakes here in El Valle, but not as much tectonic plate activity as there is in the Cherokee region. I had to find some shade. It's so bright. It's so nice to see the sun. Another difference, huge difference between El Valle and Boquete is the river. Boquete has the most beautiful river running through town, and it really is like a signature for the town of Boquete. We have a river, the Chorro Las Mozas, but you have to drive to it and then pay a small entrance fee, but it's beautiful to walk along the river, and you can, picnic there. There's some tables set out. But it's just stunning in Boquete. And there's a really beautiful park that was funded, I think, by the library, and it's gorgeous. I mean, manicured gardens and, ponds and beautiful flowers. We don't have anything like that. And also, I'm finding more things of note. There's more art in public places in Boquete than here in El Valle. Boquete has these beautiful arches of flower pots, and the grounds where the flower festival is located. So that's open all the time, and it was just really fun to walk through there, take pictures and videos, and look at the beautiful plants. And they have a plant shop where you can purchase plants. So those are also some differences. The river and just parks, art in public spaces, kind of that architectural beauty, I suppose. So what about you? If you've been to Boquete and El Valle, what are some differences that you noticed? If the thought of expat life is overwhelming, check out my expat clarity sessions. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.